the Connect podcast. I'm Jennifer Spivey, and I'm really glad you're here. Before we begin, I just want to share something that's a little different than my usual episodes. This isn't really a teaching. It's not going to be part of a series or a structured conversation. It's just really a reflection, a personal pause, looking back before moving forward. But here's why I'm sharing it anyway, because mentoring doesn't just happen in lessons or leadership moments. It happens in real life, in transitions, in joy, in grief, in the in-between places that we don't always know how to name. So it's a little personal today, but I just want to invite you into a reflection I wrote called 2025 Was That Year for Me. You know, there are some years that you move through without much thought, and then there are years that you don't fully understand until you pause long enough to look back. 2025 was that year for me. I don't think I realized how much it took out of me while I was still in it. I was busy moving forward. I was busy adjusting, responding, maybe reacting, busy holding things together and letting things go. But when I finally stopped long enough to reflect, I saw it clearly. This was a year of change. Some of the change was expected, some unexpected. Some of the change was welcome. And to be honest, some of the change was unwelcome. And somehow, all in this same year, grief sat beside joy, loss held hands with gain, exhaustion coexisted with wonder. And that was the tension, the paradox, the beauty of 2025 for me. Some years ask more of us than others. Some years feel like an uphill climb. Some years stretch us until we're not sure how much more we can give. That was 2025. 2025 was that year for me. And then some years give more than we ever imagined. Some years feel like a downhill run with the wind at your back. Some years fill you up until your heart can hardly hold the gratitude and the joy. And somehow, 2025 was also that year for me. All the changes, good ones, hard ones, and everything in between, pulled at my mental, spiritual, and physical energy. There were days that I handled it with grace. There were days that I handled it with grit. And I'm sure there were days that I wasn't able to handle it at all. And there were days that I only held it together because God held me together. And if I'm being honest, those years of pastor's wife smile and I'm fine came in handy more than once. You know, those days where you show up, you serve, you lead, and you keep moving, even though your insides feel fragile. Some things this year turned out exactly how I hoped, or exactly how I had envisioned. Those moments felt like fresh air. It felt like God was gently placing his hand on my shoulder and whispering, "See, I'm working," because he's working when I can see it. Other things turned out so differently that I had to fight to keep my footing. I had to remind myself to breathe, to pray, to steady my heart. Some things came to such an abrupt halt that it made my head spin. And even when we know God is sovereign, sudden change can still be jarring. Even when we don't see it, he's working. And yet, right alongside the hard, there were moments of joy I could hardly contain, laughter that surprised me, blessings that overwhelmed me, grace that arrived at exactly the right time. This year, seasons ended and new seasons began. Some doors closed quietly, others slammed shut. Some doors opened gently, other doors burst open wide with opportunity. Joy and grief sat in the same room. Consolation and celebration shared the same table. Loss and gain held hands. And once again, I was reminded that life rarely separates its emotions neatly. And through every part of it, God was in everything. He was in it all. He wasn't only in the triumphs. He wasn't only in the moments of clarity, but in the chaos, the confusion, the exhaustion, he was there. God was faithful when I felt strong. He was faithful when I felt undone. He celebrated when I celebrated. Some days he showed me the bigger picture. Some days I could see how things fit together and where he was leading and how the light was overcoming the dark. And other days, Really, all I could see was the contrast. I couldn't trace the outline of light and dark. I couldn't see the movement. I just had to trust that the light was still working in the darkness, that God's hand was still shaping something good. I was reminded of this old song. It's called Both Sides Now. Josh Groban has a beautiful version if you want to look it up. There's a line that says, something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. And that felt like the summary of this year. The thing is that I don't have to understand all of the days. I only have to know the one who holds all the days, all these days that string together to make a life. And I'm so grateful that he holds mine. I think that's one of the hidden gifts of a hard year, a blessed year, a growing year, a year that was all the things at once. It teaches us not only to trust God when we understand him, but also trust God when we don't understand. It reminds us that his goodness isn't dependent on our understanding, our clarity, or our desired outcomes. It reminds us that his faithfulness isn't limited by our strength or by our weaknesses. And looking back, I really can say this with certainty. God did not waste a single moment of my 2025. He used every joy, every shock, every ending, every beginning. He held every tear and he strengthened every step. He stayed close when my world felt unsteady, and he celebrated when new seasons began. He rejoiced to see work begin, as the prophet Zechariah encouraged that he would. And as I step into this new year, here are a few of the truths that I'm going to carry with me. Even when something is lost, something is gained. Even when the scene changes, God remains. Even when I can't see the full picture, his hands are already framing the next chapter. Scripture tells us that God crowns the year with his goodness. That's Psalm 65:11, and it's good. And his goodness does not depend on my understanding. Scripture tells us that he who began a good work in us will be faithful to complete it. That's Philippians 1:6. And God's work is always good. I don't know what the coming year will bring, but I do know this. I'll walk into it with the same God who carried me through the last year, and my friend, you will too. And God's faithfulness, his steadfast love, that will always be the constant. It's the comfort of Jesus Christ being the same yesterday, today, and forever, even while everything around me seems to change. If this past year was that year for you too, you're not alone. And I want to encourage you that God is not finished yet. So as we close, I just want to say that I know this episode is different than many of the others, but mentoring is about walking with someone through all of life. Not just leadership, not just ministry, but transitions, joys, losses, wins, questions, growths, and seasons that stretch us. If this past year was that year for you too, you don't have to walk into the next one alone. So I hope that you'll reach out today if you're looking for a Christian mentor to help guide you through all of these things, life, leadership, and everything in between. I would be so honored to walk alongside you, and I would love to connect with you. You can learn more or reach out today at connectmentoringnetwork.org, and I'll look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks for letting me share this little reflection with you if you hung in there this long. And as you step into what's next, I just want to remind you and encourage you, the same God who carried you through this year is already holding the next one. So thanks again for joining me today on the Connect podcast, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you again soon.